I entered the police department in 1960, and Francis at the time was in the vice unit and I was in the Metro Squad. And our offices were adjoining offices. And then we became neighbors. Francis was brought up in a military environment. His dad was an officer in the Army, and Francis also became an officer in the Army. He was one of the tallest, I think, probably one of the tallest receivers in the history of UH football. And because they never kept statistics or records, we don't know how many balls Francis caught or how many balls he dropped.
When my dad became police chief, I was in 8th grade. So I was well aware of, his job, his responsibilities. It wasn't a position that he wanted. He knew the consequences on the family and to his own health.
Some of the major issues that Chief Keala faced during his tenure was the implementation of the Civil Rights Act, unions and collective bargaining agreements, the integration of women into the Honolulu Police Department, the emergence of organized crime in Hawaii.
It's like the movies. You get hits, you get contract killing, you get cars being blown up, things like that. But Chief Keala was a calm in this whole time.
When he arrived on a major crime scene or scene of a natural disaster, it was almost like John Wayne and the cavalry arriving. You had that feel.
When he came in, they abolished the height limit for police officers. So that allowed women and other minorities to come into the police department. And I think the legacy shows today that today we have the first female deputy police chief in the history of the police department.
I would say he was the ultimate police chief. He was the police chief that Honolulu needed at that time, and he provided that leadership.
And what I saw as a child, and clearly whenever we went out for dinner, we went out in public, people would approach my dad all the time and just be so appreciative of the job that he did. And again, it was always about his integrity. It's about doing all the right things for all the right reasons.
Do not have a manual or a blueprint as to how to be a chief and run a police department. I mean, it's all by experience, it's all by education, and sometimes it's by gut feeling. And he really incorporated all of those into making some good, sound decisions.
Here's someone who had a lot of responsibility. And I remember he went to all of my football games, all of my basketball games. I was paddling at the time. He would go to my canoe races, but he was always there. He was always present. And so that's what I remember about my dad. And I remember my wife saying, she said, why don't you send your dad a Father's Day card? And I remember, sitting down and thinking about what I was gonna say, and all of this sort of came to me. This realization that, here was this guy that was incredibly busy, had a ton of stuff on his plate, yet he was there. He was there for me, and he was there for my siblings. And he was present. I had several conversations with my dad about his role as police chief and how difficult it was. As you might imagine, there was a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. And he said what he really appreciated at the time was how people gave back to him, how the community supported him. And he had always mentioned to me that when he had the opportunity, he wanted to give back. I think Palama was one of the recipients of that, as well as other organizations. But I think there was always an affinity with the police department and Palama, and I think he was happy to be a part of this organization.
Watching him as a chief of police and working with him as a board member showed us really how exemplary a gentleman he is, and again gave us an opportunity to show our keiki what they can be when they grow up.
The important thing that he wanted the people attending the event in his honor that evening to know how important the community was to him and how much he loved the people within the community. And everything that he did was with the community and the people in mind.
Chief Keala is, one of our treasures, here in Hawaii.
The city of Honolulu should be very appreciative of Chief Keala. And I personally am very appreciative of him, and I want to thank the chief for the leadership that he gave, the work that he gave, and the dedication of his life and career to the city and county of Honolulu.
It means so much to me and to my family. I think my dad has done so much, for the community, and I think it's appropriate. And we all appreciate, him being honored and receiving that recognition that he wouldn't want for himself.